let's talk about ethics, morality, and law, and why the three things are completely different from each other, and why none of those things have anything to do with religion, spirituality, cultural, or cults. Okay, ethics, morality, and law are distinct from culture, custom, etiquette, religion, and spirituality. They're completely distinct. Okay. What's immoral to you? Okay. Do you think it's immoral to stab a random group of people at the shops? Do you think that? Do you think that'd suck? Usually, the word look at the word pair associations. Okay. Do you associate? We'll break it down to word pairs. Okay. Or associations. So, is the word immoral associated with words like ugh? Wait, that's not a word. That's a feeling. Ugh. No, don't do that. Um, Okay, is the word immoral associated with negative emotions? Yeah, by the looks of it. Is the word immoral associated with not prefer something that's not preferable then? Because is it the case that negative emotions are associated with things that are not preferable? Yes. Okay, so negative emotions are usually associated with a reaction to something that's not preferable. It's how you know it's not preferable. Ooh, don't do that. It's gross. Well, that's evil and mean. Don't do that. Okay, so a negative emotion reaction has language with it, okay, that is associated with expressing that particular negative emotion, and that reaction is intended to show that a certain type of event is not preferable. Okay, so that which is immoral is that which is not preferable, and potentially that which is moral is that which is preferable on that basis. However, it's not that simple a binary either. Okay. Um, ugh. What do you go to the gym for? You get all sticky and covered in sweat and you smell bad. You're gross. Doesn't that make you uncomfortable? That's gross. What were you thinking? Ugh. Okay, so that was a negative emotion reaction describing something as not preferable. In that case, body odor and sweat. Okay, and it was associated with an event called going to the gym. Here's the response from that person. Well, it's way more preferable than developing obesity and type 2 diabetes and the inability to walk by the time you're 50. It's fucking gross, man. Yuck. Okay, so at that point, you can see the association between the what's considered moral and immoral is subjective. So the person that prefers to go to the gym sees that as a moral good, whereas the person who has a higher preference for not smelling bad sees it as immoral. Okay, is immoral in that case or moral associated with evil? Well, bad body odor. Like if you have bad BO, like it's bad for other people because they think, oh, I think there's a sickness around, and they could wind up getting scared. There's a sickness around, and they might get scared unnecessarily. So you're not respecting them or their feelings. Wait, so their inability to perceive whether or not something is actually happening based on contextual evidence is more important than someone else's right to, like, not die of a heart attack because they chose to be physically fed. Now, the rights of the community are more important than the rights of the individual. The comfort of the community is more important. You do realise that when people weigh 300 kilos and a crane is required to remove them from their house, that's actually a considerable burden on the community, and the amount of body odour that they're wreaking at the time is fairly extraordinary. People don't usually go that far. No, but if people follow the American model, they probably will. It's kind of a trope on the TV at the moment. Yeah, that is pretty gross actually. Okay. So actually, it's less immoral for you to smell bad as a consequence of going to the gym. Um, you see what happened there? At no point did anyone cause any harm to someone else. There was the perception of potential harm that came from bad body odor being associated with, you know, a means by which you could potentially detect pathogens in the environment or illnesses. Okay, that was it. At no point was anyone 300 kilos and being ripped out by a crane. At no point was anyone having a heart attack. At no point was anyone having type 2 diabetes. Okay? At no point was anyone hurting anyone. It was just a conversation. So is that really a discussion about morality? Is that a moral discussion, or is that a preferential discussion? The problem we have in society, and one of the big problems we have in society, there are a lot of preferential discussions that are being couched as moral discussions. So, take for example the gay rights debate. There are straight men, in particular, who do not want other men touching their bottom. Let's be honest about it, okay? What is that debate really about? It's about men being afraid of things going inside their bum. Homophobia is a state by which a man is afraid of another man putting things in his bum. He wouldn't prefer that. It'd be uncomfortable. It might even hurt or cause him damage. Okay then. So don't put things in your bum then. Oh, problem solved. Yeah, but if there's anyone in the world that like puts things in their bum, then it might threaten him. Okay, so what's behind that is that he's not comfortable. He's not comfortable with his preferences being respected unless everyone else is doing the same thing he does. Yeah. So he requires total control over everyone else for his preferences to be respected. Yeah. See, at no point have we illustrated that being gay or straight involves harm caused to people in truth, without being rude or gross or inappropriate. It is possible to use lubricant, and perhaps gay men, if they do partake in that activity, might do so. Okay, so not that there is any preference for that here, or that would be your business, were that the case. However, just because one person prefers Pepsi and the other prefers Coke, it doesn't mean we should be all forced to drink Fanta. So what's homophobia again? Homophobia is a preference being mistaken for preferences being mistaken for morality, and morality being you have to force your preferences onto the whole entirety of the community instead of just accepting that each individual has the right to their free choice. Okay, so why is the right to free choice even considered a moral something that might morally, ethically, or legally exist? Why is free choice associated with those ideas in the first place? Let's look at that one. Well, why would free choice be associated with that? Because if something's done under duress, or like people are forced into situations, then that could cause them harm. That might be harmful. Right. Okay then. And the most are not really agreeing to it, and actually, it could create resentment and problems later as well. Exactly. So that's where that association comes from. Yeah. Okay. So people don't like rape. Why don't they like rape? Probably for that reason, because like it takes away people's right to free choice. Okay, and that causes them harm. Yeah, exactly. Um, okay. So, is it possible that the right to free choice, or the taking away of the right to free choice, is somehow associated with with the with preferences being able to be exercised through mutual consent or agreement? So, or individual consent or agreement. So, if there's no consent or agreement by the individual who is expected to be involved in that preference somehow, then it's denying them their right to free choice, which is a moral harm. So morality steps in where preferences have the potentiality to cause harm. So take for example marijuana. Marijuana is a good topic for this one. Some people prefer marijuana as a recreational substance. Other people say it's doing them harm. Are they doing the community harm when they do that? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Okay? But what about people with medical conditions where they would be harmed if they didn't take a substance similar to that? Similar being the appropriate word, because the idea of pharmacology is to extract the essential ingredients that produce a desired effect and remove all other substances that might have act as confounding variables. Alright? So, in other words, to remove the potential harm caused by those confounding variables. So, does that mean pharmacology is attempting to prevent moral harm? As an idea, yeah. Are they actually preventing moral harm? Depends on the circumstances. Exactly, depends on the circumstances. If someone has celiac disease, this would make them sick. Okay, this contains wheat or gluten. It would make them sick. So if someone has celiac disease, they can't eat this. But holy fucking crap! If you're a kangaroo, get this. If you're a kangaroo, okay, and this was dried and was on the ground near you, you'd eat it. Just imagine for a second, you're not actually a kangaroo, but if you imagine for a second that you were, would you eat that? Well, actually, this physical body seeing kangaroos do that. Come up to a campsite and go, oh, 2-minute noodles. You know, 2-minute noodles are kind of a favourite among campers who are looking for something easier to store and easier to cook. The kangaroos fucking love it. Okay, why? It's not grass. It's not, let alone native grass. It's completely processed. Isn't it bizarre how that works? Is it a moral harm? Is it a moral harm to the viewer to make them watch this body eat these noodles? What if someone had sight allergies? Well, that's a weird thought. A sight allergy. Yeah. And contact dermatitis. Just showing skin. Okay, dermatitis is a condition that affects the skin. Okay, which is well, eczema is associated with allergies as well, but the skin reacts basically to an unfavorable stimuli in a way that involves inflammation or itch, or something very similar. Okay, and so contact dermatitis refers to the skin has to be contacted by a substance for that reaction to occur. So, is there such a thing as sight dermatitis? So, if you actually had a look at something, and just saw it, that it could potentially like make you itchy or give you a rash. Ew, the sight of you gives me hives.
Um, Actually, we've never heard of a situation where there was um a person who got hives just by looking at someone.
Right. It's interesting. But have people done um, empathic or mirror vomiting when they've seen someone else spew? Like if someone else spews, do they? Is it more likely to increase the probability of people around them spewing as well, or people sneezing or coughing or something like that?
Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Why don't they get mirror hives?
Um, they wouldn't want to.
No, they wouldn't want to. That's not preferable, is it? It's not. It's also moral harm, isn't it? Because they could get. That's a symptom of being sick. So why would you want that?
Actually, that's a fair call.
Okay. Okay. So. Um. So your mere preference to not want to get hot, not want to get hives or vomit is less important than that person's right to spew, is it?
Hang on, wait a minute. That's context dependent.
Go on. Okay.
Because, like, if the person's spewing can't help it because they're sick,
And that's how they have to get a pathogen out.
yeah.
Which means they don't spread the pathogen to others. As long as the spew's like contained in a spot that doesn't affect others, then like technically they're getting a pathogen out.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on.
So spewing's a moral good?
Yeah, in that context it is, yeah. Wait, but if people like saw that and be like grossed out, it's like, ugh. Yeah, I can just maybe mirror spew. That's fucking disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, spewing is a moral good?
Yeah.
So shitty. How is shitting a moral good? Well, it beats being backed up, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Of course it does.
Okay, what else?
If you poop under a tree, it can make a tree grow. That's good for you. You could have fruit and stuff later.
Okay, so pooping's good for the environment if it's done properly.
Yeah.
Alright. When is pooping a moral harm?
Oh, when you poop in someone's mouth. Or on their dinner.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it can make them sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What happened? What happened? What happened? What if you accidentally pooped on someone's mouth? Like, say you're a baby, and then like your mom was trying to change a nappy, your dad was trying to change a nappy, and then a big stream of shit come out your ass. They've done that. Babies literally do that to their parents, and then their parents have to clean up for like 3 days. They could just, all they can taste is baby poop, but they feel like the most disgusting people in the world because they don't want their mouth anywhere near their baby's bum, and their mouth wasn't anywhere near their baby's bum. It just, they got attacked by their baby's bum. It's like, how can someone so small project something so disgusting so far and so much? Makes them feel gross.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does make parents feel gross when they go through that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they know it's not the baby's fault.
Yeah, they know. They know.
But we can't help it. They've got a shit, and they're too small to go to a toilet or like a tree or something. It just goes wherever it lands.
Yeah, like an animal.
But they're not animals though.
Yeah, we know.
Well, they are. They're people. Actually, they're a type of ape, aren't they? Because humans are a type of ape.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Um, But so, shit flinging monkey behaviour starts early, doesn't it? That's one way of looking at it. Okay, we don't, babies are not really relevant except for one thing. Okay? They're unable to exercise free choice, are they? That's what a lot of people believe, that they're not able to exercise free choice.
Yeah.
And why do people believe that? Because they're too small. They literally can't walk or anything, or even talk.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't even wipe their own butt.
Yeah, typically the can't wipe your own butt thing is usually a sign of inability to engage in free choice, right? Because yeah, there's a massive assumption that people want to wipe their own butt and not have other people do it. Right. Then how come aristocrats had privy councils that used to wipe their butt for them? Because they're crazy people. Oh, okay. See, you see what's going on here? Now we're getting into classism.
Yeah.
Okay. Do aristocrats prefer to wipe their own butt?
Um.
If they got taught that butt wiping was a sign of independence, or they felt that it was a sign of independence, and that independence was something to be valued, then they probably would do that. So it's more of a moral preference, then, is it?
Well, it's not really a moral preference. It's more of a preference. It has a moral overtone.
And what's the moral overtone?
Other people shouldn't touch your shit in case they get bacteria.
Oh, okay. So people must really like nurses then.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, they probably would.
Mm. Hmm. So higher value is placed on nurses because they wipe people's bums.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so how come your mother's never been paid? Or your father? Usually mum though.
Um.
See, the right to free choice, okay, being the central argument to whether or not something's a moral good or moral harm. Well, actually, moral good and immoral behaviour in that case is associated with whether or not it does harm. So, moral, immoral, doesn't hurt, does hurt. Preference, completely independent of that. Okay, so, um, wait, so, oh, hang on a minute. So, it's immoral. Wait, is it immoral to not pay mums?
What do you mean?
Well, isn't it a double standard? Like you pay nurses to wipe people's bums, why don't you pay mums? So is a double standard's immoral? Or just not preferable?